Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. This is going to be a tutorial for the brand new Ultimate Coaster 3, which was just released last week. For anybody wondering, this app is already available everywhere on the App Store and the Google Play Store, so don't be asking in the comments saying, oh, where can I download this? It's already available everywhere. I can also attach links in the description if anyone wants it. Okay, the game is free to download, but then there's extra content like the extra tracks that you're able to purchase if you would like. Okay, this is considered a major upgrade over the last Ultimate Coaster 2 in terms of model quality, physics, and building systems. And this is why I am making this tutorial, because there's a brand new building system in this game called NURBS, which is vastly superior to everything we've seen before using Classic and Freeform in Ultimate Coaster 2. They're also available in this game, but they work slightly differently. So I'm going to take you through all the different building systems that we can use in this game. Okay? First things first, we need to start a coaster. So we're going to go to the top right where it says Edit, and we press on Coaster. Okay? And we make a coaster. So this is the starting node for the coaster. We can manipulate where it's going to go on the X, Y, and Z planes. If you see on the bottom left, you can see the X coordinates, the Y coordinates, and the Z coordinates of the starting node. It's ideally going to be your station, but it can be whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you start with. It's not like Ultimate Coaster 2 where you always start on the station at the origin of the map. No, this can go anywhere you want, which is absolutely brilliant. It's more versatile. You can also change the rotation of it, the yaw, the pitch, the roll. You can make a bank station, or not even a station, just any segment. But we're going to start with a 0 on everything and just put it about 5 meters up. That's usually what I do for stations. Okay, we're going to press finalize on the bottom right, and we're going to start our coaster. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the arc method of building. So there's, on the top left, there's different types of methods you can use to build coasters. This one's called arc, and the reason being it's literally just a circle. So it's an arc of a circle. If you rotate this segment, it's rotated along the arc of a circle. All right, so you can adjust the yaw, the pitch, like this, up and down, the length, and the banking of it, just like the usual Ultimate Coaster 2 Classic editor that we're all used to. Okay, if you're finished with this segment, you can just press finalize and it'll build the segment. Okay, in this case, this was a station segment. We'll get to that in a minute. So it built the station, basically. Okay, and if you keep pressing finalize, you'll start building segments, and that's how you build your coaster. This is what in what I call classic mode, but this is obviously the least efficient way of building a coaster because it'll end up with very circular sections, very simple profiling, and it will not be very nice to the eye. It will not be a very efficient coaster. So we're going to build using a different method. There's this method called Bezier curves. So the Bezier curve is basically a curve that starts at one point and ends at another point, and you can curve along 2 points. So this is just a definition of freeform from the former Ultimate Coaster 2, which, yeah, it works pretty much the same. You can adjust the yaw, you can adjust the pitch, you can adjust the bank, you can adjust the weights of it, and how much you want to control the, it's very much Ultimate Coaster 2 freeform. Annoying Miner 10 is a really good tutorial on that if you would like to use this method of building. And up until now, everybody's been using this method to build coasters in UC2. Then there's another way of doing things like the prefab method, which is, in my opinion, not very useful because you got prefabricated elements such as cobra rolls, you've got a corkscrew, and you got a vertical loop. But most of the time, at least I will usually just do the elements myself. They usually come out the way I want them. But if you don't feel like making elements yourselves, maybe this editor is for you. So feel free to give that a look and to mess around with it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to arc to reset the curve. I'm gonna just set everything to 0 to make a station, because even if we're using NURBS, I'm gonna make the station with the classic editor. Okay, I can't make a length. Yeah, the length is fine. And then the bank back to 0. Okay. So, to finish the station again, we will press the finalize button on the bottom right. And we have a station segment at the beginning. Okay? I really like the details of these things. It's a huge upgrade over the previous game. Okay, now we're going to go into the big part, which is the NURBS. So the NURBS are a very unique way of building, and it involves using orbs. The orbs that can be freely placed anywhere you want. So if I get this orb, I can move it anywhere I want, and the track will follow that orb. It will shape around all the other orbs around that orb. Okay, I can move it anywhere I want. I'm going to delete this one just for simplicity. And now in this NURBS tab, there are several options you can use. Okay, we're going to start with the top left, which has the H-align and the align button. Okay, so what H-align means is that if you want to build a straight segment, or, well, basically a straight segment on the horizontal plane, so that means that it's not going left or right, you can just press H-align and it'll lock it on a horizontal line, which means it will be stuck in this vertical grid. Okay, I'm not really one to use the vertical grid, but you might find it useful. So that means that this node will only move in one direction along the horizontal plane. You can adjust everything else except for the relative turning on the left to right, if that makes sense. And then if I build this and I want to press align, just align, not H-align, the second button, this node will align in a straight line compared to the previous node. So it's not only locked horizontally, but also locked in the direction of the last node. Okay, you can see this line that goes down to negative infinity, positive infinity, and that is defined by the node build previously. Okay, so this is if you want to build completely straight sections, but we'll get to more in-depth regarding that in a minute. Okay, you can also see the bottom right controls. You got the remove, you got the add, you got the select, so I'll go into in-depth for those in a minute. Remove button just removes the node you currently have selected, but be very careful because if you press the delete button instead of the remove button, you are deleting the whole curve, so the whole segment, everything that is in that blue wireframe. Okay, if you're deleting only one node, like this one, you have to press the remove button, but if you press the delete button, you're deleting the entire segment, which it's not ideal if you spend several hours of working. It will be very frustrating. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the top left menu, and there's this connect option, which means if you select a node and you press the connect button, you're going to be able to connect that node to anywhere that looks like this diamond. Okay. We're not going to do it right now because it would probably break the game, but if you have a suitable connection point, you're able to do that to connect different segments together. And it's really handy. It's very good. Okay. Back to the left. We're going to go to the bottom now. There's the X coordinates, and there's the Y coordinates, and then there's the Z coordinates. So that means the exact same. It means that's relative to the origin. Okay. We're going to add another node just for simplicity. There's also the weight of the node. So what does the weight mean? It means how much curvature goes into that node. Okay. So let me build 2 more nodes. And this one's going to go up. So if I adjust the weight of this node, if I increase the weight, it's going to increase the curvature. So you can see how it's going to be a lot tighter in this part of the segment because this node has a higher weight. Whereas if I reduce the weight, it's going to be more flat. Okay, this is a very intricate and very niche way of adjusting curvature. So I rarely use it, even in No Limits 2. It's very rare when I use it, so don't worry if you never use this option, but it's really nice that we still have it in the game for those that do like this option. Okay, we stay in the bottom left menu. There's the shape, which this is a menu that I'll get to in a minute, and then there's a direction of building. Okay, so right now we're in the forwards direction, but if we wanted to build backwards, we absolutely can. We just press the button, and then the direction, there's a big arrow here that tells you you're building backwards. So if you're building up backwards out of the station or modifying certain things, this is a very handy option. And also, if you want to go back to a certain segment that is behind the one you're working with right now, just press finalize in the backwards direction, and you go into the previous segment. Okay. If you press forward again and you go finalize, you're going to go back to the segment you were working with a while ago. Okay. We're going to build a lift hill now. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in the bottom right menu, there's the select button. So if you press select, you can just press select on any node and you can move it around and do whatever you want with it. If you press select twice, you can multi-select. You can drag and grab several nodes at the same time. So if you want to take an entire portion of a coaster and move it around, you absolutely can. It's very possible with this tool. Okay, we're going to build a lift hill now. So lift hills are usually straight, so we're going to make a straight bit using the H align button. Okay, we're going to keep building nodes. So I'm going to add another node along the horizontal line like this. And how a lift hill segment usually looks like in No Limits 2 is the same technique. Is you have the starting node, you have the incline node, and then you have two strict nodes in the middle that keep the lift hill straight. Okay, so what does a strict node mean? A strict node, well, first of all, there's a strict key on the left that you can tap. So you press that, and that means the node will only be able to move in a straight line between the nodes it's placed in between. Okay, so that's what strict means. So if we make two nodes strict, one after the other, that means that this segment in the middle will be completely straight. There's no curves here, no turns. So if we ride the coaster on the right button, we'll be able to see that this segment is completely straight, entirely. Okay. And now let's say we want to build a crest and a drop real quick. I'll adjust the drop later. So we just keep adding nodes along the horizontal plane. We adjust where they can go. We're going to make them go down. Keep adding nodes. Okay. You can adjust the steepness as well. It tells you how what angle the track is inclined at any point, which is great. And if you want to make adjustments, you just press the select button and you can just move it around however you want. Okay. Now there needs to be a way to get the train up the hill. It's not like you can see it's moving backwards because this is a regular section of track. There's no mechanisms here. So what we can do is go to segment in the bottom left menu, and we can split this segment into two. So we go to the bottom right corner and we press the button with the plus button that says split. So we just split it and we press select and we select the segment that we want to change. Okay. We can press the segment and go to the button that says standard on the bottom left and we press chain lift. So if we press chain lift, this is going to be a change segment. If we restart the train is going to walk into this chain lift. And you can hear it. It's going up. Okay. We have a chain lift segment, and it's going to go up, and it's going to drop down into the first drop. You can adjust the parameters on the left, like the speed and the acceleration going into the lift hill. Okay. Another thing we need to adjust is, right now it's just a straight section, but let's say we want to turn after the first drop. We select this, we disable the H align, so we're going to make it turn to the right, for example. This is going to make changes on the banking. So right now, since this is turning, the relative banking on the top of the lift hill is going to be slightly tilted. So you can probably see if we ride it, it's not a perfectly flat, like banking equals 0 lift hill. It's slightly tilted. So we need to go back to edit, coaster, and we go to the part in the bottom left that says banking. So we get a banking, and we add a roll node on the bottom right where it says add, and we just keep it to 0. So between any two sections, we have to keep it to 0. So the lift hill is going to be 0 degrees in banking. So between the start and the end of the lift hill, there should be two nodes that says, let's say, banking equals 0 degrees. And if you go to the left as well, there's a button that says continuous roll. Make sure that that button is disabled, because you don't want any wobbliness on the lift hill. So what continuous roll does is, if you're banking a segment and you want it to wiggle around a little bit so you have a smoother transition, you would turn on continuous roll. Because if you don't have it turned on, it's going to be an absolute transition, and it's only going to stay in that position. So what we need to do, if we want a smoother transition compared to this absolute transition, that if we look at the coaster, if we write it, if we press continuous roll, it's going to be a relatively smoother transition. Okay? So we can play several notes and we can play around with the continuous roll. Okay? If I keep turning it on and off, you can see there's a slight difference in the curvature, and that's because instead of going straight from 0 to 5, it's going to wiggle around a little bit and be a little bit more loose, if that makes sense. Okay. Next thing is about the banking. You need to know it's the smoothness of the roll note. So the smoothness means how long, for how much of the track this is going to be 5 degrees, 0.01. So you can adjust it, you can extend it. Like you can probably see here on the very left, it will extend and contract very slightly, but on right it makes a lot more of a difference. So usually I keep it around 50% unless I'm banking really long sections of track. Otherwise I do one singular banking node and I extend it as much as I can at 100% smoothness. Okay. And then the last section we're going to cover is the supports option, which, I mean, all you need to do here is add supports, and you can place the support wherever you want. And then in the edit parameters, there's different parameters that you can adjust. There's a lot of these. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but you can adjust them as much as you want. You can play around with them. Just be sure that when you go to segment and you press on the setting and the segment visuals on the top left, the supports are enabled, because if your supports are off here, none, even if you build supports, they're not going to show up. So you need to make sure that those supports are visible. If you're making fully custom supports, make sure you have them enabled, but the spacing, you can make it like really long. Like you can go on forever. So that way you're going to generate no supports, but any supports that you build will be displayed on the coaster. And I was going to mention as well, out of the segment visuals, there's different things like the track. Right? You can adjust the brace spacing, the end brace spacing, so how much the cross sets are going to be apart from each other. There's the spine thickness and catwalks and everything like that. There's a lot of things to play with here. Colors, you can play around with the colors as well, however you want to. Supports the machinery means, you know, what's on the track itself. So you can add drive tires, you can add brakes, you can add magnetic fins. Even if it's a regular section track, you can add any sort of machinery you want. You can add a cable lift, a cable launch, whatever you want. There's a lot of things you can play around with here. And the structure is just like stations and tunnels and things like that. It's not a very in-depth thing yet, but it's really cool. And if you go to advanced settings, well, in the segment here, there's nothing. But if you go to something like a lift hill, you'll be able to play around like with things like how much of the train needs to be on the segment until the chain lift engages, and then the same at the end. You can make it a block section. You can make it hold at the very end, which is great, and also you can make it spawn a train at the start if you wish. Okay, this is important for stations and trains and things like that. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to the NURBS for a minute. I'm going to go back to the shape again. And this is just for the smoothness of the profiling. So we need to go to this tab that says None on the very top left. And we go to this tab that says Curvature. So if we see the curvature of the coaster, we can see how smooth the curves actually are. To make a curve smoother, we can add more nodes. If you're familiar with the concept of calculus, you might know that the more sections you make out of a shape, the more accurate of an approximation you're going to get it's the exact same in Ultimate Coaster 3 or in any game where you're using NURBS. Okay? If we take two nodes, one second. Yeah, if we take two nodes and we build another one in the middle, we can adjust that section of the track more accurately. Okay, so we press H align because we want everything to be straight, and we can move around and add more nodes as we keep building to adjust the shape. And what we need to do with the curvature is make this yellow, green, red turned looking thing as smooth as possible. So as uniform and smooth as possible. So it takes an endless amount of time to adjust these nodes so it has a smooth curvature, because otherwise you're going to get jolts very easily. I'm hoping that the developer of the game in the future adds a depump vertices feature, kind of like No Limits 2, so this process is automatic rather than manual adjusting every single one of the nodes. But as you can see, I'm looking at the places where the curvature spikes and adjusting the nodes so it's kind of more normalized. It sometimes takes a little bit of time to adjust. But see, you can see it's all going the same color. There's a few spikes here and there, but just move the nodes back and forward, up and down, until you get a smooth surface on the top. Okay, and it takes an endless amount of adjusting. Sometimes it takes more time, sometimes it takes less, but you have to be very sure of getting it right. Because otherwise the jolts are very visible. It depends on your camera settings, but the jolts can be very visible in this game, so be very careful. Okay, so that's it for the basic tutorial on how to build a coaster in Ultimate Coaster 3. Remember, to finish the coaster, you just go to the end node, and you press connect, top left, and you connect it to the start. If you want to build a brake section, you just use the segment thing we were talking about earlier. Okay? I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed playing the game despite the amount of times it crashes. I am aware it crashes a lot. The developer is aware of it. There will be updates in the future rolling out regarding this issue. So I hope everybody's enjoying the game, and I can't wait to see all of these creations in the future. I'll see you next time.